Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. So today we are going to talk about the Kaladana Sutta. We'll cover the first part without the what we call the gatha, the poetry at the end, the verses at the end. We'll talk about the very beginning part of the Kaladana Sutta. And this is a sutta based on what is a timely gift. Dana means gift and kala means time. So giving at the right time, or what are the good times to give, etc. And then what we will do is we will cover the Sapparisadana Sutta, and we're going to just talk about the third section that's related to the timely giving. And then I'm going to share with you 3 stories about the effects, perhaps, that can happen to you if you're one who gives at the right time. Because we'll talk about the cause and effect of giving at the right time. So let's start. Panchimani bhikkhave kaladanani katamani panche. Agantukase dhanam deti, gamikase dhanam deti, gilanase dhanam deti, dubike dhanam deti, yani tani navasasani, navapalani tani, patamam silavantesu, patita peti, imani ko bhikkhave panchakaladhanananti. So, what does that mean? So, the Buddha, he starts off and he says, there are these 5 timely donations that can be made. What are these 5? So, agantukasa means one who is a visitor. Sometimes in monasteries we have agantuka kuti. So, when we have a visiting monk, we have a very special kuti, or residence place, for the visiting monk to stay. Usually it's quite nice. It depends what we have room for. I've visited other monasteries, and one monastery in Thailand, the visiting kuti was very, very nice. And so this is part of the Buddhist tradition to always greet the visiting monks or visitors with the wonderful, high-quality lodging and food, etc. Gamikasa is very similar. It's a traveler, so giving to a traveler. Gilanasa, so giving to a gilana, or someone who is sick. So when someone is sick, we try to give them the best quality food that we can give them. We serve the Buddha first. We always serve the Buddha first. But if there are any sick monks, we would take their food before even the senior monks. We would always take care of the sick monks. And maybe I'll tell a story about why we always take care of sick monks very nicely in the Buddhist tradition. To cut the story short, the Buddha said that we don't have any mothers and fathers to take care of us, and so that we should treat the monks who are sick as if they were the Buddha himself, and we should take care of them. Because we are all we have, so we must rely on each other, and so we must take care of the sick monks. In Buddhist countries, they actually have hospitals specifically for Buddhist monks to take care of the sick. One very famous one in Myanmar is called Jivitadana. I've been there several times to get treatment, to see a doctor, to get medicine, and it's a very wonderful tradition, and I myself have benefited from this before. But it's not just monks. It's any traveler, anyone who's visiting your place, anyone who is sick. If you take care of them, then this is very, very good. Dubike danam. This is giving in a time of shortage or food shortage, maybe famine, or also just giving to someone who is short of food, someone who's very poor. So you can also give to a person under those conditions as well. And then they have the last one is about Navasasani and Navapalani. So this is the giving the first yield or crop from your grain, or if you're growing fruit, the first yield of the season, a portion of the season, you give that away. And you give that to someone who has a proper morality, and you want to help them. And that's how the Buddha concluded the 5 timely means of giving. In a related sutta, there is the Sapparisadana Sutta. And the Buddha, he said, Panchimani bhikkhave sapparisadanani katamani panche sadnaya danam deti sakacham danam deti kalena danam deti anugahita chitta danam deti atancha parancha nupahacha danam deti. So this is the very introduction, the very beginning part of the sutta. And he's saying there are these 5 gifts of a good person. What are these 5? He gives out of faith. He gives the gift respectfully. He gives the timely gift, which we will focus on. He gives the gift without attachment. His mind is not attached. And he gives without injuring himself or others. We are going to focus on the third section. He explains each section individually about cause and effect, what you will get. Kalena ko panabhikkhave danam dattva yatha yatha tasya danasya vipako nibmatati adndo chahoti mahadano mahabhogo kalagata chasya atta pachara honti. What does this mean? Because he has given a timely gift, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich with great wealth and property, and timely benefits come to him in abundance. So in this sutta, he actually says, the words, Addo chahoti mahadano mahabhogo for all of the 5 factors of the Sapparisadana Sutta. That means becoming rich, becoming with great wealth and property. But each one of the factors that I had said before has a different result, in addition to getting that back, getting that wealth, getting that donation back. 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. So this is how, so what he says is that he will get the person who donates, the good person who donates, who does a timely donation, he will get benefits to come back to him in abundance. He will get, whenever he needs something, when he's in need, he will get this back. He will get the donation of what he needs at the right time, when he really needs it. So I'd like to share with you 3 stories of how I was able to somewhat miraculously get donations to myself at a time when I really needed it. Or not necessarily really needed it, but somewhat miraculous. That was very strange, and I felt like I lived a very blessed life when this happened to me. Now, one time when I was at ITBMU, it's the International Theravada Buddhist Missionary University. I think it was 2016, yes. And I was learning the Patimokkha. In addition to my classes that I was learning, I was trying to learn the Patimokkha. I finally finished that task, but I was struggling with it. And I remembered that if I used what we call a mala, which are beads, rosary beads we could call them, if I counted, if I took a line at a time and I recited, and then I moved another bead, and then I recited, and then I moved another bead, and then I recited, and you can do this over 100 times, then you can overlearn the line of Pali that you are trying to learn, and you can recall it very easily. And by doing this one by one, maybe 100 times, 50 times, 100 times, half of a mala, a full beads, full round of the beads, then you can memorize it very well, because with something like the Patimokkha, which is the rules, there are 227 rules, and some of them are quite long, and so you have to overlearn something so that you don't forget it later. When you're learning other rules, it doesn't get replaced. It still got replaced. It was very difficult to learn this, but I wanted a mala to help myself learn the Patimokkha. And I went to a friend of mine, a senior friend of mine. His name is Venerable Devananda. And I asked him if he had an extra mala so that I could learn the Patimokkha. And he says, "I'm sorry, Avuso, this is what a senior monk will call a junior monk. So I call him Bhante, and he calls me Avuso. Every senior monk is named Bhante. My passport name is Bhante. My first name is Bhante. So that makes it easier for people to pronounce. But Bhante means a senior monk, Venerable Sir, and it means a senior monk. And Avuso means friend. And he said, "I'm sorry, Avuso, I only have one of these malas, and I need it. So I cannot give you it." It's like, oh, okay. So on the weekends at ITBMU, and also where I am now, the IIT, I try to go Pindapata on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. And I also try to eat only what I get from the villages that I go and collect from. And this was in Myanmar. And a lot of times people try to give me money. And I always say to them that I don't touch money, and they usually become happy about that. And when I was coming back to the university, I think I would say Paisan Makaimbu, which means I don't touch this dirty stuff or something like that. There's a whole story behind that. But I would always say, Paisa Makaimbu, and then they would become happy that I refused the money, because monks are not supposed to touch money, but the majority of monks actually do touch money. They say it's for modern times, but I live in modern times too, and I get along fine. And so I was coming back from the alms round, coming back to the university. I was going right by this pagoda, this tooth relic pagoda. It's really close to the university. And a motorcycle went past me, parked his motorbike, and then he reached into his pocket. And I held out my hand, and I was ready to say, Paisan Makaimbu. And he pulled out a rosary bead, a mala. He pulled out a mala. This was like the next weekend. And that I had previously asked for a mala, and Bhante Devananda was not able to give me one because he only had one. And almost the next weekend, I think it was, I went for alms round, and the motorcycle driver, for some reason, I never met the person before, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a mala, and it was it was incredible. Like I was just so surprised and grateful. I was like, how did he know? And who is this person? And he just gave it to me, and maybe he bowed down, I can't remember, and then he jumped on his bike and left. And so I went to Bhante Devananda's kuti immediately. And I said, I went there immediately, and I put the mala there. I may have eaten first, but I can't remember. And so I put the mala, I remember putting the mala on my bowl cover. And I went and saw him, because I like to report things that are inspirational, that have happened to me. And I'm reporting this to you now. And I said, do you remember, me asking for the mala? And he said, yeah. And I said, when was the last time anyone has ever given you a mala during Pindapata? And he says, who has ever received a mala during Pindapata? So nobody can remember actually getting a mala during Pindapata. It's not anything, it's not something normal to give. It's very rare. And in fact, this is the only time I've gotten a mala, and I don't know anyone else who's ever gotten a mala during Pindapata. And it was maybe like the weekend after when I asked for it, maybe the next time that I had gone out into the village to collect my food from the village. And so this was quite inspirational for me. Actually, shortly after, I had actually 2 of these malas. Another person gave me a mala, and there was a friend of mine who was visiting, as we say, a visitor. And not only that, it was his birthday. And I didn't have anything to give him, and I looked at the 2 malas, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give him that mala, because I have another one. And it was obviously inferior. It was a really nice mala. It was just the perfect tightness and looseness and the perfect size. But I gave him that mala, the magical one. Why? Because when we have someone who visits us, we want to give the mala, or the gift, the best gift, the better gift. And so that's one thing that's important. And we shouldn't be attached to it. And the Buddha, he said that we shouldn't be attached. We should give without attachment. And so I told the story to him, and then I gave him the mala, and so he was happy. He was happy about that. There was another time. The next 2 stories are from Hawaii, Kauai. Now, I had gone to Kauai in 2015, just before I went to ITBMU. And I went there with Venerable Devananda. And we had gone Pindapata for alms round throughout the villages, the different areas, the different streets in Kilauea on Kauai Island. It's a very beautiful place. And I had returned there in 2018, I remember. And there was a Thai restaurant that used to give us food when Venerable Devananda and myself were there on, I think it was Thursdays. We would go to a restaurant called Sukhothai, and Sukhothai would feed us there. And it was one of the times where we got a hot meal, and it was very nice. It was a very nice meal. Normally when we're just collecting from the village. And so we got a nice meal there. Now, it was my second day returning. I was alone. It was 2 years later, and I was alone, and I had taken a bus to go to that village where Sukhothai was. And someone was talking to me on the way on the bus, and they told me that Sukhothai had moved, and I didn't want to take the same bus stop that I had normally taken. Now, I don't touch money. You might be thinking, how did you ride the bus? I had a bus card. We can get like a monthly pass, and we just show the card, and we can go anywhere on the island. So she tells me to get off at the bus stop near the library, and I go into the coffee shop, which is right across from the bus stop. I think it was called Small Town Coffee, and it's in Kapa'a. And the name of the restaurant is called Sukhothai. And they had moved the location to a different location, and I went around the back of the coffee shop. It's like it's a food truck sort of type thing, if you can imagine, like a little camper van or something, and they have like a wooden deck in front and an awning or something. And I went in the back and I talked to the lady there, and I said, "Excuse me, do you know where Sukhothai is? I heard they moved." And they said, "Yeah, they moved. They moved to a new location. It's just, I think she said a quarter of a mile or less than a half a mile. And I could walk it very easily. But she said, they have closed down the restaurant for 1 month. And they'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks." So I was going. It was guaranteed that if I went there and I just showed my face outside, they would invite me in, and I could get food. But nobody was there. It was closed. It was closed for 1 month. And I didn't know how I was going to get my food. I totally just relied on the fact that if I showed my face, it's guaranteed I would get food. They're open 7 days a week. They're definitely open during the time I was going there. But that particular time, they were closed for 1 month. And so when she told me that, my heart just sank. But I didn't mention anything like, "Oh, well, how am I supposed to get my food?" or anything like that. But I was thinking that. And my heart sank, and I just slowly walked away. I said, okay. And then I walked around the front to maybe walk and go see the restaurant, or I don't know what I was going to do. And this German lady, who I think was sitting somewhere at another shop, she puts her hands like this to me, and she says, "Excuse me, can I offer you some food?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." And we walked around to the front, and here I was actually becoming a customer of that same coffee shop. And she asked me what I wanted, and I said, "Well, I just need my meal for lunch, whatever you want to give." And she says, "Well, what do you like?" And I said, "Well, something that's nutritious is good," because we don't like to say what we actually like, because it could be different from the faith of the donor. And also, if you say what you like, sometimes you get that every day, and then it's not so good actually as well. She ordered, I think it was, this is from 2018, I can still remember. Yeah, I remember she gave me, I think it was a chai tea, and she gave me, I think it was a hummus bagel, a bagel with some hummus and maybe tomato on it. And it was a very, it held me off. It gave me enough food to sustain myself. And I remember, I think I was finished with my meal, and she was still there, and I said, I said to her, I really needed this food. Why did you give? It was, I didn't ask for food or anything, but the circumstances I really needed. And she just said, and she put her hands together. She says, "Oh, it just felt like the right time to give." She couldn't really give an answer, and she just said, "This was the right time to give. It just felt like the right thing to do." And it was the right thing to do. And it was one of those times that touched my heart. And I remember it very clearly. As I'm speaking, I can sort of remember her face. I can remember where I was. I can remember going to the back of the food truck. I can remember walking to the front. So when you give in a timely fashion, when someone needs it the most, and people remember, it can be more powerful. And that's why you get what you need in abundance when you really need it. Last story. So when I was in Kauai, I needed to make some signs of the villages that I was going to, and I made these printouts, and I had some cardboard, and I wanted to glue the paper to the cardboard. They weren't like big, they were just maybe like 9 or 10 inches by 3 or 4 inches. And I wanted to glue or tape the paper to the cardboard pieces that I had. And I really needed to do this. And I was at a friend's house who let me use his printer. His name is Friedemann Bender. And he's always been a helper for us in Kauai and when I was also alone. And I was at his house making some printouts. And then I asked him, I said, "Do you have any tape or any glue?" And he says, "Sorry, I don't have any." I said, "Oh, okay." And so I took my paper and I took my cardboard pieces and I was headed towards the bus stop again. Again, I had these bus passes. And as I was walking to the bus stop, I went by this thrift store. It was in Kilauea on the main road. Now, a thrift store is when people take things, they're cleaning their house or they're moving or something, and they have all this extra stuff, and instead of throwing it away, what they do is they give it to a Goodwill store. In this case, it was a church that would take the items for free as a donation. They would sort of fix them up a little bit, make them presentable, and then people could buy it. And then what they would do is they would maybe donate either to the church or use it for maybe their food pantry that they also sponsor. I'm not really sure, but they do it for some noble purpose. And so people shop there and they get things cheap. It's like a tag sale almost, but it's a permanent tag sale. And people can get things cheap, and it's also a way to support their mission. So I'm walking by that thrift store, and someone was in front of the thrift store. They had their truck, and they were dropping off stuff. The thrift store was closed, and they were dropping off things to that thrift store to donate. And nobody was there, and they just wanted to donate some boxes of stuff. And that person, he calls me. He says, hey, do you want some junk? That's what he said to me. Hey, do you want some junk? And I said, well, maybe. And I walked over to his truck, and he had a bunch of boxes there, and he was unloading the boxes. And inside one of those boxes was a bottle of white glue, like it was called, I think, white school glue, which was exactly what I needed. But the box looked like it was new. It was like a newer box. It was different than the other boxes. And I pointed to the box and I said, "Is this box also junk?" And he reaches into the box and he takes out the bottle of glue. And he lifts it up and he says, "Why? Do you need some glue?" I mean, there was a lot of things in the box. There were quite a few things in the box. And he picks out the bottle of glue, and he's, this was also junk, and he gave me that bottle of glue, that white school glue. So this was another time. Actually, I have many stories of how I'm able to get what I need when I need it. There was another story of when I was in the airport in China, and there was probably no way we were going to get food, but we did. There's so many stories that are so numerous, because my life is how I put myself in need, somewhat purposely sometimes. And so I'm in need, and I become an object for people to make merit. Because I don't touch money, because I choose to live this life, sometimes I have to travel, sometimes I'm going here, sometimes I'm going here, sometimes I need glue, sometimes I need a mala. We don't say this to people, but somehow they know, and they donate to us when we need it. I wrote about some of these stories on my website, AmericanMonk.org. If you Google miracle on 3 or 4 streets, I think some of these stories might be there. And it'll be confused with a movie called Miracle on 34th Street, but it should find it, Miracle on 3 or 4 Streets. It was purposely named that way. Normally the miracles happen on the street when I'm going for alms round, because I'm on the street when I'm going for alms round. So in conclusion, we have the Kaladana Sutta. We talked about the first part of the Kaladana Sutta. You can give to a visitor, you can give to a traveler, you can give to someone who's sick. You can give during a time of famine, and you can give the first crop, the first yields from the crop. If you're a farmer, that would make sense. If you're not a farmer, might be a little difficult. Then we talked about the Sappurisadana Sutta. We talked specifically about the third one, giving at the right time, giving in a timely manner, giving to someone who really needs it. Besides wealth, you get what you need at the right time. And we talked about the stories. Because when you give at the right time, you get what you need in abundance when you need it. We talked about the stories, how I got the mala beads when I needed it. We talked about how I got food in front of the coffee shop when I really needed that food. And lastly, we talked about how I got the glue. Why? Do you want some glue? Do you need some glue? I can't. It's so funny the way he said that, and he just picked up that bottle of glue. So you get what you need when you need it. And so it's important when you give, to give with faith, to give without attachment, to give at the right time. And to give respectfully is also important. And so you should give. You should give during these times. And you should give also without hurting anyone or yourself. So you should give out of faith, You should give respectfully. You should give a timely gift. You should give without attachment. And you should give without injuring yourself or others. This is very important. And if you do, you'll get what you need at the right time. So I hope that this inspires you to give with knowledge, to give with faith in all these different ways that I've talked about, so that you can increase your karma, your kusala karma, your merit, so that it can come back to you. So if you're a monk, it's very good. Then you can get supported very well. And if you're not a monk, but you want to become a monk, it's also good to give, so that when you become a monk, you can get what you need when you need it. But even lay people, they need things. If you're a giver, then you're always on the higher side. You'll always be the one who has that material to give. So it's very good to do that. We can give to support, and we can also give, even though you are on the higher material side, you can also give for the sake of puja, for honor and respect. So it increases your karma, and you can do many good things and create many merit. And if you've done, you can also be the receiver of such wonderful merit as well, and have some magical stories to tell yourself. So I hope that you can take these teachings and apply these teachings and have the support you need so that you can practice samatha and vipassana, so you can see the teachings and know the teachings, so that you can reach nibbana safely and quickly. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.